Hey folks, Brother Rob with you. So, you may have been tired about it already, but hey, you don't have to watch this video or be on this channel at all, so it's your choice. So, I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about, just like everyone else on YouTube does. So, I'm going to talk about four things, and I'm just going to lay them out. I've done this before, but I want to do it again because I find actually that this just seems to bear repetition, so I'm going to repeat myself. I'm going to talk about the flaws, four flaws with atheism, and that is logic, the logical flaws of atheism, the moral flaws of atheism, the epistemological flaws of atheism, and the practical flaws of atheism. These all tie together. So I go first. I'm going to start with the the logical flaws of atheism. Now, I've written and talked about this with several people. I'm not going to list them, but I'll just say I've talked with people about these things, and I have written about these things. I'm currently in the process of writing a book on why atheism doesn't work and Jesus does, an introduction to apologetics. So the plan is to have it out by mid to late March at the latest, on Amazon, Kindle, Google. It'll just be strictly online. There will not be a hard copy for this book. And, it's a lot of work to write a book if you've never done it before. Trust me, it's a lot of work. A lot of writing, a lot of research, a lot of editing. It's a lot of work. Especially because I'm pretty much editing it all on my own. It's mostly a funding issue. I don't have the means to hire an editor. If I had the means to hire an editor, I would. But currently I don't, so I'm my own editor. As well as my own author, of course. And, so I'm trying to self-publish, but I may use a publisher as well, so. But then again, I don't really have much. I don't have any money right now, so I can't really give what I don't have, right? So, anyways, so the first problem with atheism and logic. So, logic is the method by which we use to reason and make sense of the natural world and our place in it, for that matter. But here's the problem. If there is no God, then you are the result of an unguided process. You can dress that up however you want, but if there's no God, then there's no guiding process. And nature is not a guided process. So let's just can that argument altogether. So if you're the result of, you and I are and others and everyone else for that matter is the result of an unguided process, and the neurochemicals that are firing in your brain are a result of random chance. For what possible reason would you have to trust the thoughts in your own head if you're just the product of chance? And if you're the product of chance, what are the chances, pun intended, that your brain is producing logical thoughts? And even if they are, how would you know that they are? Because if there's no God, then everything is it's just a determinism, right? So if there's no God, then you don't do right or wrong, you just do. And the things you do are just preferences, not choices or morals. Because if there's no God, everything's determined, so you have no choice. And you're just reacting to the stimuli that's going on in your head, and you're just reacting. You're just reacting to the stimuli and neurochemicals that are firing in your brain and responding to them, and that's it. So you have no choice or control, and there's no such thing as decision making because everything's a foregone conclusion. Ergo, determinism. So you can't have choice in determinism, but we all know for that matter, that there is a choice in this life. You have the ability to say no to some things and yes to others. So the thing is, how do you know? And this we're going to move on from logic to epistemology now. So you can't trust your thoughts if there's no God. Epistemology is the study of knowledge, or another way to put it simply is, how do you know you can trust the things you know to be true? Or I'll put it in some more simpler terms than that as I have before. So let's say, for example, I'm a contractor and I build houses for a living. I don't, but just for the sake of argument, just hear me out. Say if I'm a contractor and I build houses for a living, and of course I have to start with the foundation, because the only way to build a house, of course, is from the ground up. So let's say I cut corners on materials because to save money, and then I use cheap materials that break down a lot faster if I used good materials instead. And I don't use the level properly, and the foundation is on a slant, so maybe when there's heavy rains, the basement gets flooded. Now, of course, the problem with building a weak foundation, if you're building a contractor who builds his house for a living, is well, it's extremely unethical, because if you're trying to cut costs to save money at the expense of the homeowner, the person who's going to live and paid for it, especially live in it, because eventually, if the foundation is built on a weak foundation, it's only a matter of time before the house itself starts to crumble, fall apart, and deteriorate. Now, the same is true for the foundation of your life and mine. If the foundation of your life, the psychological, spiritual, emotional, mental, and emotional, sociological foundation of our lives is not built on a solid foundation, then it's only a matter of time before our own lives start to fall apart, crack, and deteriorate, and self-destruct from the ground up. So that's probably the best analogy I can give for what epistemology looks like, in simple terms. But the thing is, remember, atheism is unprovable, right? You cannot prove atheism because God is immaterial. So God cannot be proved. You can't disprove God. You can't give evidence against God, and you can't verify. And because of that, you can't verify that God doesn't exist, because, ergo, he's immaterial. So to trust atheism as a source of epistemology when you can't even know it for fact is foolishness. It's absurd. But Jesus, on the other hand, Jesus is the solid foundation. Now, Jesus even said himself in Matthew 7 that to paraphrase, that he is the trusted source of knowledge, and Jesus is the only source of solid epistemology on whom you can trust and build your life upon. It's true. The thing is, Jesus is an undeniably historically attested person in history. So you can't. That's a good place to start. But then, of course, you got the working person of Jesus Christ, which is bulletproof, ethically, morally, sociologically, psychologically, spiritually. Jesus is, no one can hold a candle to him in terms of those things. So that's all the more reason to trust Jesus as the only source of a good epistemology. But of course, atheism doesn't have this. Atheism is logically absurd, scientifically impossible, and irrational to the max. It's just absolute absurd to think that life came from non-life. To think that the universe just, boom, made itself. Like, effects always have causes. Now people say, well, what about God? Who created God? Like, okay, I haven't heard this before, Einstein. No, God is the uncaused first cause. And the thing that we know that we can actually logically deduce that is because infinite regress is logically impossible and scientifically absurd. So eventually we're going to have to come into contact with a being that has no start. I call this being God. Now, in my mind, this is a logical deduction. Now you might say, well, how do you make sense of an eternal being? Well, I can't make sense of eternity. No one can, because, well, it's eternity, and we're finite creatures. We can't wrap our heads around a time that has, or a being that has no beginning, because that doesn't make any sense. And then I thought, wait a second, Rob, I thought you were against infinite regress. I'm like, yes, for us. For finite creatures like us, infinite regress is logically absurd and scientifically impossible. But we're not talking about us, we're talking about God. God is beyond the realm of science because, well, he's immaterial, so that alone makes it impossible for him to be studied by the scientific method. But, so we're talking about the existence of God, we're not talking about science, we're talking about philosophy. Now, we can use, of course, scientific method and induction and reference and logic to infer God, but God can't be observed by the scientific method because, well, he's immaterial. So you can't observe an immaterial being with your senses. But God, although God can't be comprehended, he can be apprehended. And by that I mean, even though I can't understand a lot of things about God, I know that God can be known, that you can know God intellectually, that you can know God personally, and that you can just trust God with your life. Actually, God is the only person you can trust with your life. And your life depends on your trust of God. And not trusting God is the worst possible decision anyone could possibly make. And if you distrust God, then it's only a matter of time before your life will start to unravel. Now, if you look at someone like Aaron Ra, it's very obvious that he has anger issues. Like, it's clear as day to anyone who's ever talked to him or just listened to him for any length of time that he has serious anger issues. But he wants to hold on to them. And then Jesus is like, hey, Aaron, if you would just give me your anger and just, humble yourself and give yourself to me, I'll take that anger from you and give you my peace in his place. See, that's how God works. He wants to take the bad fruit out of our lives, but the thing is, he won't force it from us. If he wants the only way it's going to work is if we give it up voluntarily. Now, if I say, Lord, I don't want this anger in my life, please take it from me and give me your peace instead in its place. I don't want to be angry. I want to be a man of peace. If you say that, and you cry out to God, and you say that in genuine humility and sincerity, guess what? He will honor that request, and he will take your anger and give you his peace if you pray in honest, humble sincerity. But if you don't pray, if you pray lacking the faith for which the thing you ask, then you are, as James describes, double-minded and unstable in all your ways, and you shouldn't expect anything from God because you ask with you doubt God. See, the problem with praying in doubt is, well, it's kind of silly to say to the very least that you doubt the very thing that you're asking for. Then you shouldn't be asking for it. That's kind of the point James is making. But if you ask in genuine sincerity and humility for God to take your anger, or give your anger to God rather, and then ask him to give you his peace in its place, he will do it. He's faithful. He's good like that. Or if you say, Lord, I have a struggle with lust. I don't want to be a man who struggles with lust. Please help me to be a man of purity and integrity with my sexuality. And God will honor that. Now, God won't take away your the fact that you're a person and that their temptations will come your way, but he'll help you fight it. That's how God does. God won't take away the fact that anger will be an option for you, but he'll help you not give in to it as he empowers you with his peace. God won't take the options away from you, but he will just make it easier for you to fight the temptations and the things that you struggle with in life. So it's not about God just coming into your life and saying, all right, I got it from here, you don't got to do a thing. No, it doesn't work like that. It's a relationship, meaning you got to work on this together. And God will help you, but he won't take away the choice. You see, and that's what makes it relational. Because if there's no choice, then there's no relationship. The only way I can be faithful to Jesus is because unfaithfulness to Jesus is an option. Just like, if I'm in a relationship with a woman, the only reason that it makes any sense that I can be faithful is because I have the option to cheat on her. The option is the operative word. But same with her. Like the only reason it makes sense that she even be considered faithful is because she also has the option to cheat on me and go fool around with another guy. You see, relationship only means anything if there's a choice involved. If there's no choice involved, there's no relationship. That's why love, in order to be authentic, has to have the option of hate in turning your back on someone. Otherwise, there would not be considered. I can't love God if I have no choice. That's robotic, not relational. And God wants relational. He doesn't want robotic. So it has to be authentic. It has to be genuine. It has to be organic. And that's the only way it's ever going to work. And that's logical. All right. Peace out, Brother Rob.